Well, hello and welcome to the session of ExecuNet Master Class. I'm your host, as always, Tony Vlahos, and my guest this hour is the CEO of KUSI Global, and her name is Talia Fox. Today, there she is. Today, Talia will be talking to us about the IT factor, what it is, how to get it, and once you have it, how to use it to catapult your career to the next level of success. Really important stuff and a part of our daily commitment here at ExecuNet to connect with trusted voices, people like Talia, who can show you how to pivot to your best career and best work and have the life you want. I am so happy to bring back my guest today, Talia Fox, as I said, is the CEO of KUSI Global, an organization that designs and delivers executive training for diverse industries. She has transformed thousands of executives over the last 2 decades in every sector, including health, higher education, technology, and government agencies. She holds a, do I say this right, MED in psychology from Howard, and is a Harvard University fellow. With that brief intro, welcome back, Talia, to the ExecuNet stage. They are all yours.
Thank you so much, Tony. Hello, everybody. I am so excited to talk about probably one of the favorite things, my favorite thing to talk about, which is the IT factor. The reason it's my favorite thing is because isn't it great to win? Isn't it great to feel like you are on this earth, you are showing up to work, and you are maximizing your potential? As Tony said, I've been doing this work for about 20 years. And when I first started, what I became famous for is figuring out how to fast track my career and other people's career to the very top of an organization. So I came into one organization, I started off as a program manager, and I went all the way to executive director. Then I did it again. And then I did it again. And the third time I got all these offers, I decided, well, I'm going to start my own business and teach people that there are several things that matter. I have to give you a caveat. I have an ulterior motive here as we talk about the IT factor. The it factor is great when it comes to moving our careers forward. I am a single mom, been a single mom for a very long time. I had 2 boys. And one thing I found about career and around moving to the top of that mountain, whatever success means to you, is that on this journey, happiness matters. The people that we connect with matter. Your energy and your health really matter. And so as we mix about this conversation about the it factor, what makes you stand out, what makes you be able to kind of win, and you are going to be the person in in your organization, in your career, in a business if you're starting it, that knows what to do to be so valuable and to get results. With all of that though, I also hope that by the end of this, you have an opportunity to stop for just a moment and think about, what is it all for? You know, we are in the middle of a global pandemic, or hopefully going toward the end. And I think many of us, I don't know if you agree with me here, you can talk to me in the chat box, but we got connected to these quiet moments of what matters, right? Where are you reaching for? What are you reaching for? Who do you want to be as you think about your it factor? So during this experience, I am going to give you 5 things that will give you an edge. And when I say edge, we're not just talking about moving you to the top of your game and the top of your career, but we're talking about that moment where you can sit down, you can look your family in the eye, you can look at yourself in the mirror, and you can say, I feel great. I feel happy. I'm doing that thing that lights me up every day. Because honestly, that is really what it's all for. We want that it factor, that edge in our happiness. All right, so let's get started. Please talk to me in the chat box, and I have a request from all of you. So I literally read over probably 200 books a year. So I am obsessed with maximizing the human potential. I read so many books, and I study ways to give people an edge. This is what I am all about. I have this opportunity to spend that time. Many people don't have that time to spend. So if there is any problem, any challenge, any question that you have, can't promise I'll get to all of them, but my request of you is my purpose in life is just to be utilized in a way that provides other people with value. So if you could give me the gift of asking for help, asking for support, if there's something I can add in here, I would be happy to share that with you. So let's get started. The it factor. What does it take to have an edge? Oh gosh, I love it. And I'll tell you a lot of stories. We'll move here as we'll get to know each other as we move along. So there are 3 things that I had to take a look at as I moved in my career. And by the way, I didn't give you some of the details. I was a single mom. I was on welfare. I had issues with my finances. I had a job that I hated. I felt exhausted all the time. I literally was probably, what you see now is also on the other side of losing over 100 pounds of weight, 100 pounds of stress. And so I was at my bottom. And I said to myself, what are those factors that are going to help me climb to a different experience and a different life? Now, I suspect that probably many people that I'm talking to now, maybe you're in the middle of your climb, maybe you're at the top of your game, but I just want to give you that caveat of this is where I'm coming from. And so I'm going to tell you the things that I focused on. And I've had the opportunity to coach probably literally almost 1,000 people over my 20-year career. And so I have captured all the data of what other people have done to be successful and to get that edge. So I'm in the business of not being mediocre, not being average, but what does it take to really thrive? And so there are 3 things that we want to master to give us the edge, both at work, in that journey, and life. It's all connected. That is, how do you spend your time and what are your habits? What do you talk about on a regular basis? And, ooh, this is a big one, something called systems thinking, which is, are you clear about the small details or big details in your life, in your career, at your office, with your boss, with your coworkers that really matter? Sometimes we don't have a career problem, but we have a focus problem. We are focusing on the wrong things at the wrong time. And so we have to get that straight in our heads. Spending our time appropriately. Time is a resource that we cannot get back. Making sure we are disciplining our tongues. Are you a complainer? Are you talking about stuff that you can't control? Or are you focused in, using your words, using your connections to drive you to new possibilities? And are you clear about what really matters? So we're going to talk about all those 3 things, and that is going to give you an edge. One of my favorite people is Maya Angelou. She says, the whole thing about getting an edge is that if you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. So the first part of being amazing, let's take a look at our needs. When it comes to disciplining our habits and our times, we cannot ignore that we are human beings. I think that this is one of the biggest mistakes. I know you all want me to go into the office. I have all kinds of stuff in my toolbox to tell you what to say and when to say it to your boss, how to conduct yourself, executive presence. If you looked at www.kusitraining.com is our website, we've got so many courses. But this 40 minutes is about what matters. And so there are these underlying things that nobody wants to talk about that really make the difference. And so let's just talk a little bit about what may be going on with all of us in a world where we've dealt with some crises. And before you begin to work on the career stuff, you have to make sure that you are all right, right? That's a big part of the strategy. Because if your health isn't right, your energy isn't right, anything that I would suggest to you to do, you're going to have a big case of, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like having difficult conversations. I don't feel like networking with people that make me feel insecure, right? It takes a lot of courage, but it also takes some healthiness in order to get there. So this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I think you've probably heard of this or seen this in your life. And it talks about our needs, where physiological needs. So I want to ask you right now, are those needs being met? Are you getting up at a certain time in the morning? Are you getting enough rest? What do you need to do to eat healthier? Safety and security. Are you in a position right now or looking for a position that makes you feel like you're secure? So are you are you in transition? If you're in transition, then you may need to sort of think about how you're moving through that transition emotionally. Love and belonging. Let's do a check on that. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Some of us try to get all of our love and belonging from work, but we need to make sure that we're getting that from different areas and different places. Do you feel like what you do in your job right now is valued? Do you feel like it's respected? Do you feel like you're included? Do you feel like you belong? If yes, celebrate that and appreciate that. And if yes, see if you can find someone that may be feeling a little bit different. Can you share love and share an experience where people can belong? So as I move up this ladder, one thing on love and belonging, if the answer is no, one of my tips here is to give what you feel you want to get. And so if you feel you're not getting as much love as you'd like, or as much adoration or appreciation, why don't you start today by giving it? And if you feel like you don't belong, why don't you start today by creating a space for somebody else to belong? And you'll be amazed at what's on the other side of that. Your esteem, let's do a check here. How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about where you are in life? How do you feel about what you're doing right now? How do you feel about the behaviors and the choices that you make? We build self-esteem by doing esteemable acts. That's when we show up with integrity, when we're honest about where we are in life, and we're honest about the fact that we might need help to get to a different place. How's your self-esteem? And then lastly, how are your dreams? Let's check up on the dreams. Have you thought about being, I don't know, an actress or writer? Do you want to make it to the C-suite if you're not already there? Do you want this promotion? I don't know, maybe you have a dream of your closet being really clean. That was my dream at one point. Whatever those dreams are, this is your need and your dreams. And so as you move through your world and as you move through life, one big way to get an edge is to do a check and to be almost scientific about your humanity. Are you getting these needs met? Now, what tends to happen when we go through big changes and crises like COVID-19, like the pandemic, is that many of us might have been on a really steady, lovely climb up this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then change happens or crisis happens and we kind of spiral. Let me get my pen here so you can see. We spiral down to different areas. So recently, maybe you needed some more, safety and security or a different feeling of love and belonging because you felt isolated. And so you're spiraling down. And what we all need to do together, not just for you, not just for me and for Tony and Kimberly and everybody else that's joining us on the call, but we need to make a climb back to the dreams, back to where we left off. And can we help people hop on this ladder as they're moving back up? So this is both compassion for yourself and where you may be these days, and compassion for others that you might have been knocked down a couple rungs, which is okay, acknowledge it. And then what's the plan to begin to climb back up? So let's talk about what happens in the workplace when needs go unmet. And this is why this will give you an edge, because let me tell you, folks, a lot of people, and by the way, I go to so many organizations and observe people, and a lot of people have so many things going on, and they are trying to get their needs met in toxic ways, and they're completely unaware of the impact that they're having on other people. So the reason why this is an edge for you is because you will be among a group of people that will almost seem like a superhero if you are self-aware enough to understand how to manage any negative emotions that you may have, particularly in the workplace. So let's talk about some of these toxic emotions. And how what they actually mean. I want you just to be aware of this. This is one of a big edge. It's emotional intelligence. It's a big part of the edge. So one of the emotions is just frustration and anger. So if you are particularly in a position where maybe there's some people you don't get along with, maybe you don't feel like you're being as respected as you'd like, maybe you're just frustrated and angry about policies and systems, maybe you're in transition and you're carrying some baggage from your last job. I don't know, maybe you're frustrated at home in your life. What that is, the causes that you feel, it's a blaming game, that something or someone is blocking you from reaching a goal. And so that is basically how people deal with that. You feel like you're being blocked, and so it comes out as frustration and anger. But we end up being like 2 or 3-year-olds because we are angry and we're taking it out on people, but we have no idea the real root of that anger. A couple others here. Are you a grumbler and a complainer? If you are grumbling and complaining these days, and if you can be honest with yourself, just take a check. I've been complaining a little bit lately, and I have friends around me that tell me, where is the gratitude, Talia? Where is the gratitude? I'm so grateful for those kinds of people that I surround myself with. But when you grumble and complain, that could be that you're not feeling appreciated. And so what do you need to do to feel more appreciated, to feel more connected? What do you need to do to be in more of a solution-oriented space? A couple more here. Are you sarcastic and cynical at times? Sometimes sarcasm is a way of joking, but it could be a sign that you feel unable to really speak, and you're trying to convey contempt but hide it a little bit. If you notice, I don't know if you even know people like this at work where they make these sarcastic comments, and there's some truth in that, right? We're denying, we're not able to really just speak directly. So sarcasm is one of those things. Maybe you're blaming and making excuses, not accepting responsibility. Here, let me give you, sorry, a second. There we go. Let me give you my laser pointer. So the sarcasm and cynicism is connected to unable to speak, desire to convey contempt. The blaming and making excuses is connected to not accepting responsibility or not wanting to take responsibility for whatever actions are being had. So if you are feeling this blaming, making excuses for why something isn't happening in your life, I get this all the time in coaching. People will say to me, the reason I can't talk to my boss is because of this, or the reason I can't do this is because of X, Y, and Z. We get so many excuses. And that is, where is your power in this? So wherever you are in your life, where is your power? Discouragement and apathy, sometimes that's a sense of powerlessness or a lack of trust. Or we've been seeing this in the workplace quite a bit, which is this idea of sabotage, or even there have been recently, and probably not so recently, violence, workplace bullying. And this is a desire to exert power over others. So if you are feeling bullied in the workplace and someone's trying to exert that power, how are you managing that? So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of the dark side, because the edge is to avoid having, the edge is to understand your emotions, understand what's causing the emotions, and create a plan to get those needs met so that you are not the toxic person in the workplace. I will tell you, no matter how many strategies you use, a person that is toxic in the workplace, complaining, discouraging, negative, you will always be at a disadvantage. You will not have an edge in that space. By the way, as you see in the chat box, if there's anything that you'd like to ask questions about or to address as we move through this, I'll be happy to do so. And Tony, if there's anything that comes in that I don't see, feel free to interrupt me and let me know. So your success, Helen Keller says, and happiness lie in you. And so a big edge here is, again, the capacity to manage the you that is always with you, right? That is always with you. This is a huge edge, because there's going to be so many things in our lives, in our world, that we don't have power over. But when we can manage our emotion, that's what it's all about, we automatically get an edge. All right, so getting unstuck is edge number 3. We've got 5 edges. We're on, edge number 2. We're on number 2. So 1 is manage your emotions. 2, get unstuck. If you are feeling stuck, the reason you're feeling stuck is because you've probably got some stinking thinking. Is your stuckness real? Or is it something that is being impacted just by the way you're framing or thinking about your life? So here's what I'd like for you to do. Spend time contemplating who you want to be. Actually, literally make that an investment, as important as an investment in your retirement account. That you are not distracted by the anxiety of the moment, but your brain is trained to contemplate the possibilities and what you are capable of constantly. I actually have reminders up. Whenever I feel a little stuck, feeling kind of down on myself, I'm feeling, what do I do next? Hard decisions, somebody rattles my feathers, or there's emotions. I say, Talia, where are you going? What are the possibilities here? What are you reaching for? And immediately I can feel the unstuck emotion. I can feel the stickiness coming about. Joe Dispenza, he wrote a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, because some of us may have habits, right? Of just, it's not a personality trait, it's not authenticity, but we have a habit of seeing the world the same way. You know these people, we are these people. For example, for me, I'm going through a big move, and I tend to have a difficulty with change. And so I literally sometimes will be on the internet looking at like crime statistics, looking at all the things that could go wrong. And I realized that it's a habit. I'm a fixer, but I find myself finding problems that don't actually exist. And so I had to stop myself and say, wait a minute, this is a habit. Or sometimes as a boss and as a leader in my own organization, I have a habit sometimes of not trusting people. And so I'm following up, missing things at times, and I catch myself and say, this is a habit. This is not a strategy. So your edges, when you get a hold on how you think and what you think about and how you strategize, you will be among the winners and the stars, because everybody else is just kind of zombie-like. They're just showing up and doing the same thing they always do, speaking the same way, thinking the same thoughts. And they're not quite sure what results they're getting because there's no strategy, there's no deliberateness, there's no discipline of the tongue, discipline of the mind. Really, really important. So your discipline of the mind is contemplating who you want to be so that you can change your brain. So we have something in the chat box here. All right. So thank you, Adam, for that compliment. Hope to meet you someday. I had a few careers, the main one being as an international development consultant in frontier and emerging markets. I'm now trying to reinvent or reposition myself in the impact investing private equity world, but not sure. I'm 60. Congratulations on all your success. American fit, healthy, highly motivated, strong verbal and written communicator at all levels. I've had many great jobs and am financially secure. Fantastic. What a great thing to celebrate. Harvard Business School. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm reading this. I'm going to read this real quick because I think this is great. My greatest challenge now is determining what I should do next. All right. Not under pressure, but you've been speaking to a lot of people. I love it. So when it comes, first of all, I love your process. Celebrate and think about everything that you have accomplished, getting super excited about where you are in life. And what I love about what I love being in a space of not knowing what's next, because it is only in that space where you have unlimited possibilities. So anytime you're in transition, if you could literally just spend some time saying, wow, this is the only space where there are unlimited possibilities. The world is big. There's lots of time. There's lots of resources. There are abundance of opportunities. And the fact that you have on your list, this is exciting. We're going to celebrate this, Adam, that you get to, not you have to, you get to sit back and contemplate the possibilities around what you want to do. And so I would ask, the questions that I would ask myself if I were in your shoes are, what lights me up? What brings me joy? What do I feel like doing? And what are 2 ways that I can make the biggest impact in the world, given everything that I have invested in over my life? Where can I make my biggest impact? And then sometimes you sit back and you look up and you pay attention to all of the opportunities that are around you. One of the things I do with my coaching clients is many people don't realize that we feel like it's going to be hard to find opportunities, but what's in your pocket? Who do you know? Who are you connected with? What friends can you just start having conversations with? And I think we'd all be amazed. We've seen this in our lives, how things kind of flow. So it's finding your flow. All right, let's keep going. Another suggestion here, and this is about getting unstuck, is have you taken some time, and I would say get your feathered pen and sit with a cup of tea, enjoy yourself, and design your life. What do you want it to look like? Reflect on where you've been, celebrate it, cut all the baggage of any mistakes that you've made. We've all done some things, right? We've all made some decisions that we may not be that happy about, but now, right now, and this is all of us, all 56 people that are joining me here today, we are in the winner's circle. I'm giving you a pass right now that everything that you've done now is in the past. You have a clean slate. It is time to get your feathered pen and a cup of tea and to design your life. So what do you want it to look like? What's the day look like? One exercise that you can do is, can you design your perfect day? The reason I'm sharing these things with you, and I'm going to tell you how it's connected to your career, is these are the edges that nobody talks about, because happy people tend to be more successful people. It's the energy the unstuckness that allows you to show up to a networking event with a huge smile on your face, feeling relaxed and confident and just full of gratitude and excitement about who you are without that job, about who you are without someone having to give you an opportunity or to validate you at work. And so designing your life, what does that look like? What's happening next? Do you have some goals? Are you reflecting often on the things that you're doing? Are you thinking ahead? There are a lot of books, and I'll get you a couple recommendations on life design, where you can begin to kind of simulate, what do you want your life to look like? It's an edge, because when you have purpose and when you have focus and when you feel that you are designing the totality of your life, some other things in your career, things that happen in the office, relationships, work stuff, it feels a little less important because you see the big design. Really important. So managing your emotions, edge number one. Edge number two, getting unstuck, which means that we want to both design our lives and to really contemplate who we want to be. The next step with this design, how many of you have way too much stuff you're thinking about, too much stuff on your to-do list? The focus is just frazzled these days. Are you anybody feeling a little overwhelmed? I don't know how you're doing these days around a variety of things. But here is the time, once again, 56 of us here talking to each other, me and you, we're here together. It is time for us to simplify our lives. What is going on in your world right now that is unimportant? Right. I had a time, I remember working in an organization, and I had a boss that I felt constantly riding my back. I just did not, we were having a really hard time getting along, and she was just a difficult person to work with. And I realized that I was just spending so much time thinking about her, complaining about her, talking to friends about her. And I got some coaching around this. This is early in my career. And my coach wanted me to add up how much money it's costing me to talk and complain about my boss so much. She said, let's give your ideal hourly rate in the future. Because I was young, new career. And I added it up, and I felt like it was like a good $50,000 investment of thinking time about something that just was not important. When it comes to relationships, we also have a lot of assumptions. When it comes to organizations, we have assumptions. So simplifying your life. If you are in transition, let's say right now you're trying to figure out your next phase, that is a great way to get clear. So what is the most important, second most important, third most important thing? And what is the one thing that you can do today that if you did this thing, everything else would become irrelevant, or everything else would be so much easier to accomplish? What is that one thing you could do today? What is that one thing that you could do this week? What is that one thing you could do this month? This is from the book, The One Thing. You can get this book. What is the one thing that you could do this year that if you did it and did it well, it would make everything else easier and or even irrelevant? So the things that are keeping us from our dreams, from feeling good, even from our career progression or transition, is that we've got too much noise, a lot of distractions. So for me, the one thing that made the biggest difference in my ability to eat better and to exercise better and to figure out my career, this is going to be so simple, but change my life: sleep. I lived sleep deprived for so long, and that was my first thing that I started to master, simply sleeping. And I just focused on that, and I will literally tell you 50% improvement on every aspect of my life: career, motherhood, everything else, even being able to eat healthier. Then the next thing I focused on was body and energy, right? Drinking enough water, those kinds of things. So I kept going thing by thing. So if you focus on that, clean up your focus, you'll be surprised how good you will then get at being great. Robin Sharma, love him, 5 a.m. Club is his book. So you've got The One Thing, book recommendation. The 5 a.m. Club, I think, is really great. He talks about how do you design your life. So let me tell you what he says and other productivity gurus say. You've heard all of this. However, These are an edge. It's an edge to double your productivity. I'm just going to go to the chat box. All right. Wonderful. So the question in the chat box is, when you're designing your life, how long do you design up to? Do you do the next 20 years, next 5 years, next 10 years? And my answer is, it depends. I want you to do a check to see how you are feeling. If you have any level of if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling stressed, or if you're in the middle of a life transition of any sort. So say, for example, maybe you just became a new parent. Maybe you're thinking about, I don't know, moving to another place. If that is where you are, I would literally start designing my life 1 week or 1 month at a time, depending on how you feel. If you're feeling overwhelmed, get life really bite-sized. What can I do today to just help me begin to feel a little bit better? If you feel like you're in a space of, everything is just pretty good, I'm feeling good, work is fine, life is fine, but I'm just a little bit passionless, that's when you can begin to step back and you could say, what's the year plan? What's the 2-year plan? What's the 5-year plan? I personally try to keep I like to have space for possibilities. And so I try to keep my plan to about the 5-year plan, to give some space for new ideas, new epiphanies, to meet new people and have new perspectives on what's possible in life. And so, but it depends on where you are emotionally. You want to plan your life in a way that is helpful and not stressful. So here are a couple things. You don't want to hear this, I know, because I don't want to hear it, and we've heard it already, but I am challenging you here. I'm giving you the challenge right now to try one of these things. And I'm going to give you the challenge to try it today, if you can just try one of these things, all right? Can you turn off technology for 60 minutes to give your brain a break? If you're in a work environment where you have to constantly respond to emails, let people know that you're literally taking an hour, or figure out in your culture how you let that, and focus on something that you feel is what we call deep work. Cal Newport, that's another book, Deep Work, where he gives strategies to focus on one thing at a time. If you can go 15 minutes, that's great. You can start there. Maybe working all the way up to 60 or even 90 minutes, putting on some nice music or having silence and just focusing. It's going to help really do quality work, but it'll also help you get clear on what you want to do, what you enjoy, right? Do a test for that. The next one is, can you work in 90-minute cycles? So if you're sitting down doing something, every 90 minutes, you should definitely be getting up and shifting what it is that you're focusing on. Really, really important. Start your day. So let me tell you what I do in my day. For those of you that are curious, I wake up every morning, I have a hot cup of coffee, and I exercise for at least 30 minutes, and then I meditate and sit quietly for 30 minutes. And then after that, I have breakfast. I'll let you know what I have for breakfast. Pretty much every day I have oatmeal, yogurt, and fruit, almost every single day. I actually weigh it on a scale so I don't overeat. I eat that every morning, and then I start my day, and I will tell you, I feel so good. And I try to get in at least a half gallon of water every day. Life-changing. Can't even talk about it enough. And then the other thing that I try not to do is, as soon as you get out of bed, do you pick up your phone as first thing. So before that routine, all the way through breakfast, I try to leave the phone to the side. If you're able to do that, try it at least just once. All right, keep going. We just have a few minutes. I have quite a bit of things to share with you. I'm going to skip over this with our productivity, but I want to go to make sure that we get through all of our edges. So as we continue to talk about this particular edge, which is getting unstuck, I want you to network with fear. Oh, embrace it. Excel. It's the fear barrier. And so here are some questions to ask yourself. Remember, when it comes to development and when it comes to an edge, the questions you ask yourself may be more useful to you than the answers that you gain. So here are your questions. Are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of rejection? Or are you afraid of looking bad? If you can overcome these fears, You will have an edge like no other. We are in a world where everybody is very self-conscious. They're nervous. They're anxious. We're thinking about people judging us. We're worried about what bosses think, coworkers think, children think, spouses think, parents think. I mean, when we go to the grocery store, people look at, there are people, the people that I've worked with, there is an overwhelming kind of obsession with what are we doing and how does it look? And it makes a lot of us very unhappy. And we start doing people pleasing and making a lot of decisions that don't bring us joy and don't make us happy. So again, your feathered pen. Sorry for my British accent. It's not so good for those of you that might be actually from the UK, but I love it. But you sit with a cup of tea and you ask yourself, what are the things that worry me? What about myself and my world am I trying to protect, right? What am I avoiding? And what steps can I take to just face fear or to even let go of any anxiety and give yourself permission? This is nice. Give yourself permission to do what you want to do to make yourself happy. Take everybody out of the equation and just give yourself the permission to contemplate it. Remember, you don't have to take action yet. You're just contemplating. All right, let's keep going. When you conquer fear, and by the way, there's an acronym here that I love, which is, you might have heard of it already, but false evidence appearing real. Fear is actually all that stuff we make up in our heads. And this will give you an edge because actually fear creates, makes us be out of reality, because we think that we have this evidence and we think we know how life is going to be. Maybe if you're in a transition, I'll keep talking to that as an example. If you have other things to ask me in the chat box, I will answer that. But when we observe an opportunity or we observe an organization, or we even think about, let's just say your dream is to be the CEO of your company. As soon as you say that dream, I guarantee you that your brain makes up all of these things. And you're going to argue with me saying, but it's true, I can't do this. I need to be this kind of person and I would need to do this. You have all of these things that may support you in not taking action. Some of it might be true, but a lot of it's just made up. You just don't know yet. And I will tell you, and I think you all will agree with me on this, that there are so many things in life that so many people that actually defy what you thought was possible. My life is an example of that. My father was illiterate. My mother is partially blind. And so every single thing that I've accomplished, according to the statistics, it wasn't going to happen. All right, so we've got a few more minutes and I'm gonna roll through so we can make sure that we get to all 5 edges. I love talking about this stuff, so I go off on tangents, but I think we're having a good time here. Here's the deal, folks. We've gotta become corporate athletes. And corporate athletes have rituals. If you think about sports teams, every day you're working out, every day you're shooting shots, or if you're a golfer, you have to master it. So we need to do the same thing in our corporate and professional world. This is from the Harvard Business Review Journal, Becoming a Corporate Athlete. And so how much time do you spend with this? Your physical capacity is a little similar to the hierarchy of needs, your emotional capacity, your mental capacity, and how you motivate yourself. That's a big thing. What do you do on a regular basis to motivate yourself? And you don't want to just do this when you're feeling bad, but can you develop rituals that support your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being? We are going to focus on, in just 1 minute, the mental capacity. I'll get this to you pretty quickly here. Positive Intelligence, another book by Shahzad Amin. He actually wrote a book about our brains and performance around positive intelligence. And positive intelligence is simply this: what percentage of time does your mind serve you? And what percentage of time does your mind sabotage you? So here is your action step. In your mind, you just want to ask yourself, as you're thinking about your career, as you're thinking about promotions, as you're thinking about even dealing with difficult people, does the thought that you're having discourage you or encourage you? Is the thought that you're thinking empowering you or demoralizing you? Are you feeling energized or drained? As you begin to look for jobs, as you begin to look for new opportunities, are you taking actions that encourage you or discourage you? Are you taking actions that empower you or demoralize you? Are these actions making you feel excited about the next steps? This is an edge because energy is king. And the world belongs to the bold and energetic. The world belongs to the bold and energetic. And so all of these things will help you get there. Optimism is an actual strategy. When you accept where you are and just deal with it, that leads to the ability to think about what you can do and all the possibilities. Once you think about possibilities, you feel relief. And once you feel relief, your mind calms down, you feel excited. And guess what? The solution comes. It will come every time. Relax into it just a little bit. Get excited about the possibilities. And I promise you, some of you don't like what I'm giving you here because it feels like it's in the sky, but this is the real stuff. This is the real stuff. You want some of the communication strategies, I can give that to you too, but this is the real underlying stuff. There was some research and Tony, I'm watching time. It's going to take about 2 more minutes. There was some research about measuring mental fitness and your positive intelligence. And they looked at 500,000 people. This is in Shahzad Amin's book. He was a lecturer at Stanford. And it said 500 people showed that their positive intelligence to be the best predictor of both happiness and their capacity to perform relative to their potential. So this is about your potential. This is about maximizing your potential. This is about your ability to make your life designed as you want it. And that is an edge because guess what? You are a boss if you are designing your life. When you think about edge, when you think about being powerful, if you walk into your life and you feel like you are in the driver's seat of the design of your life, I guarantee you every interview you do, that energy will be unmatched and it'll be amazing. Promise you. Promise. And I usually don't make these promises. I couldn't break my promise, but try it. The next step that we have to think about, and this is going to go to some of these skills, is simply, are you coachable, right? Are you humble? Let me get my thing here. We're going here. Are you humble? Are you ready to improve yourself? Are you ready to evolve and grow? Can you take constructive feedback? And can you explore, challenge, and change your thoughts, recognizing that they might be limiting your ability to develop? So as you think about all this stuff, get a coach or simply be coachable. Let go of who you once felt you were, the ideas that you once had. We are in a new world, and be coachable. All right, let's add from Robert. We are right there. Oh, at time, fear is a big factor in pursuing my dream job. It impacts my self-confidence to go after certain jobs that I feel I might not be a perfect fit. Yes, feel the fear, guess what, and do it anyway. Oh, let's just change the mindset. It is exhilarating when you do something that's a little bit uncomfortable. It is exhilarating. Okay, so I will leave you with this and ask me just a few more questions. We're right at time. There are 2 types of skills. And in this time together, we focused on your sky skills. So that is, what do you do to sort of push your limits and move to the top? But then those are your ground skills. These are your technical skills. These are mastering your game on the ground, how you communicate, your technical skills, staying up to speed on everything in your industry. You will be a master. You are like the cheetah running on the ground. You will be the fastest, most beautiful animal on the ground. And then you want to be like an eagle soaring. The eagle soars because the eagle sees the big picture of you. The eagle sees the happiness factor. The eagle sees what the plan is and what the design is. And those skills will help you master the sky. And so in order to get an edge, you've got to master what's in front of you on the ground, but you also have to master the sky. And I will leave you with this. I had a chance to hang out with Oprah. I am bragging. Yes, I am, because it was great. And I asked her a couple of questions. I actually asked her for some advice. I was making a big decision about whether to stay at Harvard and take this dean's position, or if I should continue on building my business. And she said, well, you know what I chose. Only thing I can tell you, Talia, is bet on yourself. So if you are going to take a chance, if you are going to overcome fear, never underestimate your capacity to achieve anything that you could imagine. That will be the biggest edge that you could ever get with moving through your life and your career. And I hope that all of you, I know we're right there at the end, I have so much more I want to share, will take this time to just reflect, take this day to be happy, and to just consider, what do I want to do? Where are my dreams? And feel the fear, go for it anyway. Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you, ExecuNet, and everyone for having me. And I hope to be able to have these conversations as we move forward in the future. I'll turn it back over to you, Tony.
Well, thank you, Talia. And yes, we'll have more conversations, and I appreciate your wanting to cover more, but we have this limited time, and it's great to turn to some questions. So I'm going to start with a couple of my own, and everyone else, please catch up. Thank you to all who've already chatted in, and Talia has fielded those questions beautifully, but if you've got more in your mind as I speak, by all means, write into us. So I'm dying to ask you, how did you master sleep? Because that's a big one for a lot of us. What did you do differently to go from the walking dead to someone who gets a good night's rest?
Yeah, so I actually got this suggestion from Louise Hay. She passed away, but she used to be the editor of Hay House publishing company, and I read one of her books, and she just mentioned that sleep was a game changer, and I never thought about it. And so, I do this thing. I got this from another book. I have to remember the name of it, but every week I give myself a new challenge. And so some challenges I keep on forever, and other challenges I may stop and start a new challenge. So one week, the challenge was, I'm going to get in bed at a particular time. The temperature is going to be about 72. I'm going to make sure I invest in a bed. I invest in other things. So I invested in a bed for good sleep. And I started to just master that schedule around getting good sleep. I don't always do it perfectly, but I did it for 1 week. And now I know if I'm off, or if I'm feeling discouraged, or even if I'm in a bad mood, I said, how much sleep did you get? And so I think about those other things that impact my ability to function at my best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the edges that you talked about has to do with being unstuck or getting unstuck. And of course, this is a senior level executive audience mostly listening today, and that will when the recording is available. And so we often wonder at a certain age and a certain point of our careers whether we can develop any kind of it factor and essentially get unstuck because we're older, we've been at it for too long, we're kind of, quote, set in our ways. What do you recommend we start doing like today to start getting unstuck?
It's interesting because I think for senior executives, we probably have the biggest challenge with being stuck. It's this life where we've accomplished a lot. Maybe some of us are feeling like we've done all we can do, and now we're trying to figure out what the next thing is or what the transition is. And in that particular space, you actually now have this beautiful opportunity to explore the unlimited possibilities, right? So you have this beautiful opportunity today to ask yourself, is there one thing that I could do that allows me to support somebody else? Is there one thing that I could do today that brings a little more happiness? I think when we get later in our careers, I would prioritize joy. I would prioritize happiness. And for many of us to do that, we have to prioritize service and giving it away. I think for a lot of senior executives, that being able to mentor, being able to support other people becomes a huge part of creating a strategy to get unstuck. And I'll just share this last thing, Tony, is the stuckness is an emotional feeling. It's just you're not feeling tuned in, you're not feeling excited about life, you're just kind of going with the flow. And so it's an emotional unstuckness. And you might get that from your career journey, but there might be something else in life that you get that from. Maybe it's dancing, I started doing bachata dancing, by the way. Maybe it's going fishing, maybe it's going out by the water, but whatever you need to do to emotionally feel more connected, that will bleed into overflow into ideas and creativity and innovation in the workplace of what you can do next. So we're human beings, it's all connected. So we don't really have to compartmentalize all the time. You'll be amazed at the impact of the connections.
Well, that's a lovely mindset and lovely advice. And I wanted to add to that something that one of our listeners just chatted in, which I think is just brilliant. And I'm going to read it verbatim. A key point in getting unstuck is understanding that it isn't the negative things people say to you, it's what you say to yourself after they stop talking. I think that's just awesome.
Oh, yes. Yes. So here's another thing that I do, Tony, it's life-changing for me. I have made a commitment to myself, and I've had this commitment for the last 3 years, that I don't have to tell anyone about this, but in my head, I will be my own cheerleader. And so I literally try to discipline myself, and I try to notice it. Am I lifting myself up? Am I encouraging myself? Because if you are not for you, right? Um, who is going to be for you, right? So you're in your mind, and I literally avoid thinking thoughts that make me feel bad, or even interpreting thoughts that make me feel bad. So yeah,
Yeah, we
absolutely.
have to always pick ourselves, absolutely. So many who are
Yes.
in transition in search often dread the question that the interviewer asks, which goes something like, "So tell me about yourself." Now, we could get that question at any point, anytime, anywhere. And what most of us do, knee-jerk reaction, is say, "Well, here's my rank and serial number. I do this. I'm a VP of this or that. I'm a head of operations. I'm a..." What does that say about our passion level? And what does it say about our it factor when we go to this rote answer that honestly doesn't tell anyone anything of interest about yourself?
Yes, I'm going to give you just a real, um, one second, I'm sorry, I'll resume share. I'm going to give you a quick way that I'd like to how I like and coach people to answer that question. So the first thing is, remember that personality and likability is key, right? So if someone asks you about yourself, I would start off very, very briefly to say something like, you know, the first thing to know about me is how committed I am to the work that I do, and how I am dedicated to just continuously learning. And there are three things that I'm really passionate about, and also have over my career mastered. One is my leadership skills, capacity to interact with people. I really take my technical skills very, very seriously. And lastly, you can use these words, I like to consider myself an eagle, which means that I look at the big picture. So I like to be innovative and think about what's happening next. And then from that base, you can go back and you can actually identify stories and things to add in those three buckets: your leadership and people skills, your technical skills, and your sky skills, being able to see what matters, being able to see what's next, and being innovative. That you package in a nice little response that has a little bit of personality. You might say, you know, my father always told me, or I have these conversations with my son all the time about how important it is to, right? A little bit of connection, and then some real organization around the core things that you want to share. Yeah,
Gosh, see, that's
yeah.
you're someone I would want to hire based on what you just said. So there it is, everyone. That's the difference. Thank you for that wonderful example of how to answer that question. Wow. So you mentioned you're a single mom. I have a 13-year-old son, and I will say that he can be quite unenthusiastic. So I get answers like whatever to a lot of things. So when you're at the senior level, how hard have you found it is for most of us to, gosh, convey, even if you don't feel it, convey some level of enthusiasm without looking like a dork at an interview or at a cocktail party or at a conference in person in the future, God willing? How do you convey that? Isn't it important? It's more of a rhetorical question, I guess. Isn't it so important to convey enthusiasm so people can feel your it factor?
Enthusiasm, energy is really the game changer. But here's the thing. Um, Enthusiasm and energy is a competence. And so many people think it's an emotion. You don't have to be passionate or energetic about anything, but it's a competence. If you are focused and you're going into an organization, you want to competently be focused and clear about the value that you are sharing. If we wait for the passion to be completely authentic, we could be waiting for a long time. But there's a communication strategy, and I'll tell you what that is. Say I'm working for an organization, I've done my research. And so I might say something like, this organization has done X, Y, and Z. And I'm excited about, or if that's not the truth, you can say, I'm really focused on or interested in your three core areas that you have been trying to develop for the last 4 years. Now, I want you all to key into my face and how I'm talking. There's a slowness, there's a focus, there's a connectedness. Many of us, our passion and enthusiasm is because we're distracted, and you're distracted by self-centeredness. So if you're thinking about how you look, if you're thinking about whether or not you're getting hired, whether or not you're saying the right thing, you're off the mark. You are keyed in on what you can do to provide value. You have your research ready, and you can clearly and confidently and competently, not necessarily enthusiastically or passionately, competently make a value proposition for how you're going to help an organization get to the next level.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's a really important distinction. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you one more question. You spent some time talking to us about emotions at work. Now, for many, that is like an oil and vinegar mix because we don't view that as our job to be emotional, display positive or negative. When we go in the direction of the positive, let's face it, it feels like a giant phony kumbaya where we all have to act like we like each other versus the negative stuff which we say can that no one wants to really see you that way here. How do we navigate that territory, especially if you're in operational leadership roles where you need to portray a vision and help people understand a goal and develop a strategy for how to get there and ensure everyone's implementing against it? That seems to be what the work is really about. So how do emotions factor in a constructive way at our jobs?
So one thing to keep in mind is that you're always using emotions. So even ignoring someone or saying something in a very mundane way, that's an expression of emotions. Emotions make everything matter. And so accepting that is the first step. The second thing is you want to strategically use emotions. So what you are strategically using, and particularly if you're at the senior level, is what am I doing to motivate and energize a group of people to do good work? What am I doing to motivate and energize myself to get really strategic about my mission and about what I want to accomplish here? The entire game around the edge is all about how you manage and shift emotions. This is what makes leaders great, is they can rally people, they can give a vision. And so if that's not your personality, that's something to work on. If you want to edge, you want to work on how you manage your emotions. And sometimes you use negative emotions as a strategy. It depends on how serious you are about your mission. But whatever that is, that everything is emotional. And so it's not just some things, everything. It's what makes it matter, what makes people get up and go to work every day because we think we'll feel better working than not working, doing a good job than not doing a good job. It's 100% an emotional strategy in terms of success, outcomes, leadership, businesses. That is what, if you're in a people business or you're working with people, that is what's going to kind of energize and move anything forward. Very, very important distinction.
Everyone, please connect with Talia. You've heard her, you've watched her. She can make a profound difference in your career and help you get the life you want and do your best work. Talia, thank you today for making time, for sharing your insight. Thank you to all for tuning in, for your marvelous questions and your comments. I always love reading those and having the privilege of asking the questions because I learned so much just by being able to do that. Any final thoughts, Talia, before we officially wrap up today's masterclass session?
My final thought is that if you were here today, just taking the extra step to develop yourself and to think about the it factor, you're already in the winner's circle. So you are literally 80% there. The 20% is to make sure that you're happy and infusing that energy into the goals that you want to achieve. And so happy that we got to spend this time together. And thank you, Tony, for inviting me. What a great conversation that I
Oh,
had.
you're very welcome. It was a joy again to have you on. So thank you all again. I look forward to seeing you at the next session of ExecuNet Masterclass. Bye for now.